Out of turn.
Okay. Well, probably a lot of you realize this experience or have this experience yourself, but when you've spent a lot of time in the past with two people that you really love, but not lately, you tend to rely on really strong mental images that you have of them to conjure their presence. And for me, it's an image of Mare at your wedding. And it's late, it's an after party. She's sitting under the eaves in this attic room, and it's late, and I'm totally tired and boozy, and Meredith is not. She's looking extraordinary and totally radiant, completely unblemished by the hour. And she's, beautifying the space and the people around her in this way that, not the obvious way that sort of beautiful women do when they're in a room, but in a more profound way that if you've ever watched Meredith arrive, sort of wherever she is, you understand, whether it's a kind of, cold rental vacation spot that you've planning to spend 2 weeks together in, or, a messy apartment right before cocktails, or a dinner table that needs just exactly the right amount of candlelight. Meredith has an innate gift to remove some of the coldness and the harsh lighting of the world. And she has a soothing, kind of calming presence that makes me feel sort of lighter and funnier, and even more beautiful when I'm with her. And I know that what I feel when I'm with Meredith is probably just a small portion of what Brad feels to be the recipient of that gift every day. And I know that because I see it in Brad's face every time he talks about Meredith, or hear it in his voice every time he mentions a silly story about her, or even when he says so. The image that I have of Brad is not really an isolated image, but it's a kind of layers upon layers of very similar image of Brad in various degrees of tan skin, bringing like a huge pitcher of like some fruity concoction. He's beaming, and for me this is an image that is like Zen or total nirvana in the same way that probably some people approach yoga or religion. A more relevant and more recent image that I have of Brad is from last week, and he's standing in the foyer of his apartment in New York holding a very hot pink bag, and it's holding those very cute boots that Meredith is wearing now, and he's on the way to the cobbler, and he's busy, right? But this is the most important thing that he has to do that day. And it's not a very spectacular image of love, but it is one that reminds me, or reminded me that day, of how courteous a gentleman that Brad is, and how his sort of devoted attention to Meredith runs really quietly, really deeply. I've seen it encompass everything: respect for every choice that she makes, respect for her rather arcane system of condiment preferences, kitchen preparation taboos, everything. And that's really, something that reminds me that they're not people that make love look effortless. It's not that at all. It's as if they concentrate on just the small things, the small acts of courtesy that they do to each other, the watching over, the daily pampering, the sort of ridiculous amount of cooing they do over each other, every third dog that they see on the street. So that's why I chose the poem that I chose today, because it's not so much a poem of, flightly or heroic love. It's kind of an old-fashioned poem that's more about finding the beauty and tenderness in these everyday banal moments of living together. And if there's something that I wish for you today more than anything in the world, is that you never lose the gift that you have to see those moments as people. It's called You Will Be Naked. You will be naked amid the room's familiar things, slender as a reed, as a spindle of light. And with legs crossed near to the fire's red wings, will listen to the winter night. At your feet I shall take your knees in my arms, and you will smile, more graceful than a willow branch, and placing your head against your smooth thigh, I shall cry because you are so soft. We shall be proud to look at one another, and when I kiss your throat, you will lower your eyes and smile at me, and curve your tender neck to my caress. Then, when the ailing servant, old and faithful, comes to knock at the door and tell us dinner is served, you will jump up, blushing, and your frail hand will reach for your gray dress. And while the wind whispers and sighs beneath the door, while the old clock falters its broken chime, you will hide your legs and their scented ivory breath inside each slim black sheath.
Dave.